What's up, guys? My name is Cam, and this is week 3 of our series, With You. Last week, Parker talked about being with those who are lonely. And this week, we're transitioning to being with those who need encouragement. Today, I'm going to be sharing from a passage of scripture concerning a woman of incredible godly character, and her name is Hannah. And as we dive into her story today, I want you to know that there's a problem that is central to her story, and it is this: that without the right encouragement, we would never finish the race. We would never cross the finish line. And this is a problem that is central to Hannah's story, and I believe that this is a problem that is central to your story and the lives of those around you as well. And before we dive right into Hannah's story, I want to tell you a story about another woman of incredible godly character, and that woman is my mom. Just how she interacts with God and the people around her, it is clear that her faith is central to her life. And I remember just this one season of her life where she could have given up hope. She could have walked away from the challenge, but instead she head right into it, maintaining her hope in God. And this particular time in her life, she had chose to run a half marathon. And previously she had only ever ran a 5K race before. And this was a huge step up in mileage and a huge step up in training for her. And having battled various heart issues and shin splints and other difficulties in her training, even though it was hard, she continued to push forward and push through the rigorous training. And on race day, my dad and my sister and I, we showed up with a sign that would have looked something like this. And see, it's such a simple phrase of encouragement. It's such a simple phrase of encouragement. And the thing about that is a word of encouragement can be so simple, and it doesn't take that much effort to give. But the impact that encouragement has on someone can take them further than you would ever imagine. And as followers of Christ, we need to choose to be with people who need encouragement and help them along as they are running their race. And this is exactly what takes place in the Old Testament story that we are going to be in today. And like I said, our main character that we are focusing on, her name is Hannah. And Hannah lived around the year 1000 BC in the nation of Israel. And things were a lot different back then between then and now. And one of these major differences is that Hannah's husband, Elkanah, had 2 wives, both Hannah and Peninnah. And this was a much more normal occurrence back then, especially because Hannah was unable to bear a son for Elkanah. And this would have brought great shame on Elkanah's life because he wouldn't have been able to have a son to continue on his family tree. So he decided to take a second wife, whose name was Peninnah, so that he could have a male heir. And every year, Elkanah would bring his family to the tabernacle to offer a sacrifice and worship God. And from this sacrifice, he would offer a portion of the meat to Peninnah and her children, and to Hannah as well, because he loved her. But the Bible tells us that Peninnah would taunt Hannah year after year after year, and this upset Hannah and brought her to tears. The one thing that she wanted, the one thing that she wanted most, she wasn't able to have. And to make matters worse, Peninnah rubbed salt in the wound by taunting her for lacking the thing she wanted most. And most of us, through our difficult moments, through our hardships, we lose sight of the hope that we have in God. And we turn away from Him as soon as things get difficult. But in this situation, Hannah doesn't lose hope in the face of hopelessness. Instead, she holds fast to the hope that she has in God. So let's pick up where this story leaves off in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 9 through 18. Once after a sacrificial meal at Shiloh, Hannah got up and went to pray. Eli the priest was sitting at his customary place beside the entrance of the tabernacle. Hannah was in deep anguish, crying bitterly as she prayed to the Lord, and she made this vow: O Lord of heaven's armies, if you will look upon my sorrow and answer my prayer and give me a son, then I will give him back to you. He will be yours for his entire lifetime, and as a sign that he has been dedicated to the Lord, his hair will never be cut. And as she was praying to the Lord, Eli watched her. Seeing her lips moving but hearing no sound, he thought she had been drinking. Must you come here drunk? He demanded. Throw away your wine. Oh no, sir, she replied. I haven't been drinking wine or anything stronger, but I am very discouraged, and I was pouring out my heart to the Lord. Don't think I am a wicked woman, for I have been praying out of great anguish and sorrow. In that case, Eli said, go in peace. May the God of Israel grant the request you have asked of him. Oh, thank you, sir, she exclaimed. Then she went back and began to eat again, and was no longer sad. What an eventful story. There is so much going on in this passage that we could unpack, but I want us to really focus in on a few important things here. Did you notice what Hannah did in the face of hopelessness? She didn't run away from her problem or leave God behind in the dust. Instead, she ran to God, knowing that He alone had the power to help her overcome her problem. She ran right to God, the one that she knew held her victory in His hands. And we can see this when she is praying. She prays to the Lord of heaven's armies, which in Hebrew, this name is Jehovah Sabaoth, which is the name of God that declares His reign over heaven and earth, and over the armies of heaven and earth. Hannah doesn't just use this name by coincidence. She cries out to Jehovah Sabaoth, the God that holds her victory in His hands. Hannah is an amazing example of what it looks like to hold on to hope in the face of hopelessness. She doesn't hesitate or question or turn inward. She simply stands up and cries out to God. Now let's turn our attention to Eli for 1 second. And let's just get the obvious out of the way. Eli made a mistake. See, something about this culture that you probably do not know is that when people prayed, they prayed out loud, and their prayers were often loud in volume. So when he sees Hannah and he observes that Hannah's lips are moving, but he doesn't hear sound, he assumes that Hannah is drunk in her moment of greatest despair, and he makes this mistake. And it would have been normal for Eli, the priest, to see people come in and out of the temple, drinking after religious festivals and celebrations. But the thing that he does wrong in this situation is that he trusted in his perception, which was blinded by his preference or the tradition of praying out loud, which Hannah was not doing in this instance. And because of this, he wasn't able to encourage her in that moment as she needed. See, don't get so caught up in your preference that it changes your perception of others. Because when we do this, we limit our ability to love the people around us. And the final takeaway is this, that we need to be with people who need encouragement. After Eli realizes his mistake, he offers Hannah a blessing to go in peace, and may God grant your request. And this blessing was the exact encouragement that Hannah needed at that moment in time. The text then reads that she went away and she ate, and she was no longer downcast. She was no longer sad. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the main problem that without encouragement, many of us would never finish the race. But Eli, he offers this encouragement that was exactly what Hannah needed in her time of need. And just like a supporter would encourage a runner with a sign as they are racing, we need to be with people to offer them the encouragement that they need as they are running their race, as they are going along in their faith journey. So how do we as Christians encourage those in our families, encourage those in our friend circles, encourage those on our sports teams, or even our fellow Christians who are struggling? Well, here are 3 things that I think that we can learn from this story. The first is to be attentive. It says in the text that Eli observed Hannah as she was praying. And while he did get it wrong the first time, he eventually recognizes his mistake and recovers and offers the right encouragement. And this all happened because Eli was paying attention to Hannah and recognized a need. The second is to listen. Listen to them. So many people go around today feeling misunderstood, unheard, or like no one really cares what this person has to say. All you need to do is make yourself available and listen to them, hear them out, try to understand them. Number 3, we need to offer encouragement. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 reads, "So encourage each other and build each other up, just as you are already doing. Because when we encourage and build up those around us, we allow people to experience the love of Christ." And as Christians, we should desire to be people who overflow with the love of Christ so that they can know and experience God. There are people all around us, at home, in our schools, or people that we pass on a daily basis that need encouragement to continue on in the race. So remember, be attentive, listen, and offer them encouragement. And remember that we always have the privilege of being with those who need encouragement. Thanks for hanging with me. I challenge you this week to offer encouragement to someone in need. Thanks, and see you later.